Good morning. This week, I was thinking, well, not just this week, I was thinking about this before, but there's a weird thing where about one's perspective on good and evil. So first of all, maybe sometime you should go look up like relative versus subjective, but it feels like a lot of people these days, since the Enlightenment, tend to look at good and evil and say, "Oh, it's all relative," by which I think they mean it's all subjective, right? It's just a matter of personal taste. Never mind that if you ever step on their toes, they will turn into a moral absolutist very quickly. But there's a point to be made that there seems to be a lack of consensus when it comes to things like good and evil, right and wrong, truth and lie, and the nature of these things. So you could argue because of that would prove that in fact it's just us impressing our own values upon these things. It's just a matter of our upbringing, a matter of the way we were raised, etc., etc., and that because of that, our like good and bad, right and wrong, etc., are in fact just subjective concepts. But I think there's an alternate explanation to this. So, in theory, you can have a person like a leper who can lose sensation, right? And the fact that they lose sensation in their limbs doesn't mean that it's okay for them to just, whack off their limb because they can no longer see what's perhaps bad about that. Maybe they lost limbs before and maybe they're no longer worried about it. Maybe they no longer have the same sense of revulsion. So, what if what we perceive as being good and bad and right and wrong are, in fact, it's not a matter of us proactively impressing our values upon reality, but a matter of an objective reality leaving an impression upon us, right? What if these things are objective realities and the lack of consensus surrounding good and bad and right and wrong and truth and lie is more the result of, shall we say, the asymmetrical searing of one's conscience? And it's, I think that's a plausible explanation, and it's the one I think I would go with. But also, I guess the question would be like, how do you tell the difference between something that would be like truly just a matter of subjective taste, like you could say pizza is the best food that's ever existed? That seems to be very much actually just a matter of personal taste, versus something like, good and evil, right? It seems like there would be, put it this way, I'm skeptical of people who say that they have sight over other people, right? Even if it's sometimes true, to be fair, it could be true that I have seared my conscience in certain ways, and because of that, other people are capable of perceiving a good or seeing an evil that I am incapable of doing. So, for the record, I tend to be skeptical of people who pretend that they have arrived, and they use words like NPC and Matrix and stuff like that. On the other end of things, though, maybe a good way to spot out the difference between what would be a subjective reality and an objective reality is when you see people who say, "Well, I used to feel strongly about that when I was a kid, but I'm over all of that silly, stupid, puritanical stuff now. I'm enlightened now," which means perhaps that you've just seared your conscience to the point where you're now, blind to the good or to the good of what might be something you should do or to the evil of something that you are doing. Food for thought. An afterthought. It seems like if good and bad and right and wrong and truth and lie are these objective realities that we're capable that elicit a certain type of reaction from us, and an unappealing one. In theory, they might elicit the same reaction from any sentient creature who is capable of perceiving them. And if we do, in fact, have an incomplete conscience, or an asymmetrically seared conscience, it feels like the logical way to compensate for one's own blindness would be to come together to form a more perfect union, right? A symbiotic relationship or a community that was dedicated to betterment through conscientious endeavor, which sounds markedly like a religion, in my humble estimation. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please press the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment if you want to.